All right.
Cool beans.
So I'm going to call this meeting of the school committee to order. I'd like to ask you all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everyone, I'd just like to remind you to please silence any cell phones that you may have, and also let you know that we're taping this meeting to air on DCTV. Right now, the beginning of our agenda, we have allotted some time for public comment on any of the items on our agenda. So if anybody would like to make a comment, we'd ask you to please step up in the microphone, state your name, and go ahead and let us know what you're thinking. All right, so with no sort of takers of that call for public comment, I'm actually going to move next to our recognition of Ms. Kathy Massini, because I know she has to scoot out of here to head up a concert. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gifford right now.
All right, thank you. As Ms. Massini comes to the podium, be careful there. So I'm just going to read a tiny bit about Kathy, and then of course hope that all of you are able to chime in. So we're happy to be recognizing Kathy Massini this evening for her years of service and commitment to the Dartmouth Public Schools in anticipation of her much-deserved upcoming retirement at the end of this month. Kathy's home with the Dartmouth Schools has been at the DeMello School beginning in 1986 as an elementary teacher in grades 3 and 4, and in 2000 she moved to the Plymouth Public Schools for an administrative position. In 2005, she returned here to the DeMello School as the principal, following the retirement of Kathy Medeiros. For 26 years, the Dartmouth Public Schools has been fortunate to have Ms. Massini in our employ. She has done an amazing job leading the DeMello School, and I am certainly happy to have had her, at least to have met her and had her work with me for the last 2 years. I couldn't have asked for a more exemplary administrator for our school district. And of course, we wish Kathy many years of happiness and good health, and hope that she enjoy everything that life has to offer.
Now I'll allow our school committee members to say a brief moment. I know Mr. Oliver would like to be here in person to extend his best wishes to you, but he is at the Acushnet Town meeting this evening, so he's had to miss it, but I'll ask Dr. Karafotis to go first.
All right. First of all, I've had the opportunity to work with Mrs. Massini, and I've always enjoyed working with her. She's very easy to talk with, and she's always generating a lot of ideas. I always found her to be very goal-oriented, and she always has that nice smile of hers to calm down at any moment. But she's excellent. Excellent as a teacher, very good. Good luck to you, Kathy.
Thank
Wish
you.
you the best.
Ms. Amaral.
Yeah, I just wanted, fortunate to have met Ms. Massini in 2007 when Emma started kindergarten. She's now a freshman. And so I've really enjoyed my time working with you on different committees, and fifth grade planning, party planning committee. You've always been responsive, and good luck and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Kathy. I had the privilege of meeting Kathy when she came on board. So I was the head of the PTO down at DeMello School at the time, and was also very fortunate to, for my wife and I to have Kathy as our youngest son's fourth grade teacher. And I remember the year very well. He had for him, a slam bang great year. And, and the smile that you see on Kathy is what she has in her classroom every day. What I remember then. And I remember when she came back, I was thrilled that, she was coming back to keep the continuity in place with the DeMello School that has always been there. So I wish you nothing but the best, and thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Both of my children had the privilege of attending DeMello, and they had a wonderful time at that school. So I know how good of a job that you do there. We miss you. We're not there anymore, and I know that the DeMello School will miss you. So we wish you the best in your retirement. I want to give you a little token. I know when you were working, you probably wouldn't have had time to attend an orchid. I hope that now that you are retiring, you may find a little bit more time. So we'd like to give this to you as a token of our appreciation. I would kill it. I hope you don't.
It was a good, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have one of these, but I understand they're very easy, so hopefully I won't kill it. I just have to put an ice cube in
It's your
once a
starter
week.
plan for your retirement, right?
I just want to say that it's been a privilege and a pleasure to work with such outstanding administrators and teachers, such a supportive central office and school committee. Everyone works for what's best for children. And I just think it's a great place to work. And yes, DeMello, it has my heart that I've been there for 26 years. When I left and returned as an administrator, the then superintendent, Dr. Russell, said to me, you have 3 goals. You have to improve the student achievement at the building. You have to improve the image of the school within the community. And you need to restore parent relations, that parents weren't volunteering. It wasn't a very comfortable situation there. And working as a team with the staff, we've certainly done that. I remember presenting at a school committee meeting my first or second year as a principal, and we had one of the lowest MCAS scores. And I was just really embarrassed in sharing our scores. It was coming up, but our science scores were really pitiful that year. And I'll never forget Judy Bowles, who was a school committee member, came over to me after the meeting and said, I knew you were a little upset. She said, I have every faith in you and your staff that you're going to turn it around. And I was on the DESE website looking through the accountability data, and since 2010, the last 7 years, DeMello's been a level 1 for 5 of them, and 2 for 2 of them in 2012 and 2014. So it's a real team effort at the school. I'm going to miss the staff and the students. They're wonderful. It's just an outstanding school, and there I see my brother, sister, back to back right there. So it's wonderful, and I thank you so much. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to have been DeMello's principal. So thank you. I'm going to run up
Okay,
to
have fun.
DeMello School's concert. So thank you.
All right.
Enjoy.
Thank you. So, oh no, we did not do roll call. So I was so eager to get Ms. Massini out the door that we forgot to do that. Ms. Boucher, can you do roll call for us, please?
Certainly. Dr. Karafotis.
Here.
Mrs. Amaro.
Here.
Mr. Noon.
Yeah.
And Dr. Jenkins.
Here. And now we will pick up where we normally do that, and now we will do the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the regular session minutes of May 8th, 2017.
So moved.
I second that.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I will next entertain a motion to approve the executive session minutes of May 8th.
So moved, Madam Chair, with the stipulation that they be held until the matter for which they were intended is completed.
I'll second that.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Gifford. Are you going to introduce the
Sure.
Dartmouth Middle School, our
Sure.
Spotlight on Kids segment?
Absolutely. Tonight we have our Spotlight on Kids for our Dartmouth Middle School. You can see we're in for a treat, I think. So I'd like to invite Principal Darren Doan here to introduce the staff and students that are here. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Gifford. Just feel very fortunate that Mr. Guile, as well as Mrs. Glass, both of our engineering technology teachers, were very much willing, along with the students and parents, so thank you, to take time out of their business schedule just to kind of share a little bit of the activities that they participated in this year. They're very innovative, they do some wonderful things, and they're great representation of the school, so thank you. So we'll have Mr. Giles go first to share, and as well as Mr. Dischardes, excuse me. He's also been very instrumental in supporting our engineering technology program. Mr. Giles, all yours.
Well, I'm Mr. Guile, and this is Mr. D, or as he's known, Mr. Dischardes. And I have Jack here and Evan. And this year, Mr. Dischardes and I we started the first LEGO League for Dartmouth Middle School. We competed at Apponeonta Regional High School. I think on December 10th, I believe. And starting in September, before even the after-school buses were coming to school, these two and the rest of our team who unfortunately couldn't make it due to there's a lot of sports going on right now. I mean, Jack still got his baseball pants on. We worked twice a week until the competition, and we went up and we could have done better. But being a rookie team, we did okay for ourselves, as what often happens. There's gremlins get into the work somehow. Happens with robotics. Mrs. Glass will tell you when she comes up, she's going to say the same thing. Hopefully they'll do great on Wednesday, though, when they go up to Bridgewater. But they worked on this course. They had to build the robots themselves. They had to program the robots with the programming that comes with the Lego Mindstorms kits. And they had to work together. A whole bunch of kids that had never known each other before, I think, and they gelled pretty well, and by the end, they had a really good time, regardless of how we did. So Jack's going to explain the course a little bit.
Yeah, so right here we have the course, and basically we have to program our robots to do all sorts of the different tasks on here, like taking the honey out of the beehive, which we're going to show later. And the harder the tasks are, the more points they'll give, and then you'll get more points throughout the 2-minute period that you have to do all of them. And I've actually been working on a new robot just this spring. It hasn't been doing very well so far. And it's supposed to take it out of the white refrigerator that's down there.
You can go over and show them if you want.
Right down here, and this is the robot. Right here. And it's supposed to do that, and then dispense all the Legos that are in it and put it in here and bring it back to our home base. And it's not working, but theoretically that's what it's supposed to do.
I do want to point out that we've been out of the competition since December 10th, but Jack has been coming to work on this competition, Matt, so he's more prepared for next year's competition. So, all set?
Can I have you ask you to step up to the microphone? We can all hear you, but the microphone feeds into our video for the people at home. The kids can step up front, that's all right, but when you speak, if you could speak into the microphone, that would be great.
What we're gonna do next is, the Balabot. Okay. We do have one demo that we can show you that has a small probability of working. So let me go run that for you. Like Jack was saying, there's a robot that picks up a bee. It's supposed to bring it to the beehive, drop the bee on the beehive, the honey rolls out, and then the robot has to go back to home base. Let's see if it does it. I'm gonna pull yours out a little bit. So the students built the robot and did the programming themselves.
Oh,
So they hit the button.
I love it.
Oh,
So,
that's great.
yep. They also, let me go to the microphone. Oh, okay, that's fine. They also, as part of the competition, the theme this year was animals and people working together. So they came up with a whole bunch of ideas, some really crazy and some workable. So they stuck with making an app called Animal Alert. And we tried a couple of different app programs to write the app, and it worked out okay. Basically, what they wanted to do is, if you've ever driven around Dartmouth, there's always turkeys crossing the road or foxes in somebody's yard. So they built an app where if you spotted some animal, you could open it up, take a picture of it if you wanted, and anybody else with the app would be alerted to wherever this animal was. Well, depending on what zip code you were in, basically. And, we're not app makers, but it came out pretty well, and they had to present that, and from what I hear, the judges were pretty impressed with their app. Yep.
Great.
Oh, go
So I just want to give a couple words about the organization that we joined. There are multiple levels of FIRST. Currently, we do FLL, which is the second lowest. There's junior FLL, FLL, FTC, and FRC. There is an FTC team at the high school, which we do cooperate with, as well as the FRC team based out of UMass Dartmouth that has students at other various high schools, including Dartmouth. What's great about this organization is it teaches a lot of skills for their adult lives. Aside from getting kids interested in STEM careers, which is a major importance right now, it does a lot of good skills involving teamwork. What's also great about this is the amount of grants that we can do. Currently, our team was just accepted for a DoD grant for next year. We do have a partnership with the Naval Undersea Warfare Center at Newport, Rhode Island. So we do actually have a good amount of funds to work with. And last but not least, thankfully, as opposed to our first competition that was a 2.5-hour bus ride at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, we have been able to also set up, between Mr. Guile, myself, and UMass Dartmouth, we've been able to set up a competition next year at UMass Dartmouth, hoping to reach more of the community around us. So with that in mind, Evan, if you'd like to come up.
So next year, we're gonna start a new team in September, and anybody can join, but the people that were in the team the year before, so anybody that was in the team this year will have first priority over somebody that just is first joining. And then instead of this course, there's gonna be a new course. So it's not gonna be this one that you see on the floor. It's just gonna be a completely different theme, like maybe nothing about animals. But we don't know, we won't know that until August. And we hope we do better next year because we didn't do too well. Yeah, let's just go with that.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Mr.
Thank you.
Desjardins as well as Mr. Guile. They spent a considerable amount of time after school working with the students.
Thank you.
And it was evident, and we really appreciate their support as well as the students as well. They did a terrific job, so thank you very much, guys. And now we have Mrs. Glass
Thanks for
and her
coming.
student.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Pam Glass, and I teach engineering technology. And tonight I have Devon Fuentes, who has been in robotics for 2 years. And one thing that's great about robotics is that the fact of they're using industrial robots. They're using RCS6 industrial robots. And some people will cringe, but it's actually a DOS-based program. So they really have to use some of the old DeMello computers, which are 25 years old. Yes, thank you, DeMello. And they tend to be a little bit, as Jamie was saying, they tend to have a mind of their own. You get on the competition. We just had our competition last week, and we actually sponsor it, and Freetown Lakeville comes here, and the students set up, and they compete. There are a variety of competitions. There's a 7th grade overall, which throws a ping pong ball, 3/4 of a meter, 1 meter, and then also a long shot. And Devon is going to tell you about the manufacturing, which I think is the coolest because it's just like industry. So he did that.
Our manufacturing robot, we designed it and built it to pick up a pencil, put it into the sharpener, take it out, and draw an enclosed figure. Right now, it's kind of not working very well, and one of the servos died out, and we're trying to figure it out why. But she's going to show what it does, or what it's supposed to kind of do. And I've liked robotics for the fact that it helps us use our brain and helps us think better and helps us learn about older technology too.
Pencil.
There you go.
And the servo one just died, so as Mr. Guile and Mr. Desjardins were alluding to, robots have their minds of their own. And we also have Project Invention, which Project Invention is funded by Bridgewater State University. And we've actually I've been doing both of these for 14 years here at Dartmouth. And Bridgewater State University has been wonderful because they give us the supplies for student inventions. This year they had 50 inventions that they came up with. So we have about 27 students when we first started, and they came up with 50 inventions, and then they have to decide out of those which ones that they will be doing. One thing about both of these programs is they have to work in a team, they have to learn how to problem solve, critical think, and being on the go with problem solving and what happens when a servo breaks down. If we were in competition, we would be here with an extra servo, but we didn't have that. So Devon, I want you to tell, he's also in Project Invention, which most students who are in one are in the other. Tell about your invention for this year.
My invention, which currently isn't here, but my invention is to help paraplegics and paralyzed people, so paraplegics, tetraplegics, and quadriplegics, to help move their limbs. We called it limb enhancers. So it can help them move their limbs again after years of not being able to. And we're trying to make it lightweight and easy to use. And we've gone through a lot of mistakes and problems with it, but it's going out really well. Currently.
Thank you. And we'll be presenting that Wednesday at Bridgewater State University. So we have one of our projects from last year is our hovercraft, and I asked for a couple of volunteers to come up because unfortunately we had a couple of young people who were not able to do it. So why don't you sit on it the first time, and then
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to comment, the people who did this actually presented this last year, and they did very well with it. And they actually had to figure out the aerodynamics so that it will actually hold people up. And they learned that when you have the air velocity going in, and you have tiny holes, it increases the velocity. And that's what they were going to share with you. Unfortunately, lacrosse and soccer get in the way. But I am just amazed at what these students do. And it's amazing. And so thank you very much.
Yeah, currently designing one of these so that I can travel throughout the middle school.
Already rode on.
I did. Yes, I did. And I got to lose a few pounds, but other than that, we did really well. But thank you for inviting us, and also to Mrs. Glass and Mr. Guile. They really have done wonderful, wonderful things, as well as the students. And failure is in not trying. So I convey that to the students. Failure is in not trying. So you guys have done a wonderful job, so thank you. Thank you.
Any comments?
I would just like to say congratulations. Congratulations to all of you for the great work you're doing. This is amazing. This is what classrooms should look like, with hands-on learning and problem solving and teamwork. I just have a couple of questions. Now, I understand this is an after-school program,
Yes.
and is it for any special grade level?
6, 7, and 8.
So all
Doesn't
students?
matter.
And do you have a limit? Any of these programs have a limit as to how many students you can bring into the program?
Usually I start out with about 30. I max it at 30 because we don't have as many robots. So it gives the students an opportunity. And we run it first session and second session. Some students stay for both sessions. Some choose to do other things, which is perfectly fine, and then they come back, as Devon came back this year, and he stayed the whole year.
Wow.
So we do our 10 weeks that's sponsored by the parent group, and then we continue after because we have competitions and things.
Wonderful.
So, and so the parents, I have to thank the parents and the students, because if they didn't provide rides for the students, it wouldn't be possible.
And don't forget about
Can
the
I- can I-
educational foundation.
Yeah, well, can I follow up on that? I know Mr. Doan ekes every penny out of his budget to fund these after-school programs, and it's great. It would be great if we could also do this in the classroom. I'm like a broken record about the need for more resources in our school. I know that our teachers who work in these after-school clubs are really doing it a lot out of the goodness of their heart. Because I think if we calculated your hourly wage, we might be violating like minimum wage law. But it is great, but because of lack of funds, right? For instance, a lot of programs need more time, but we can only run the buses for so long. And so this is another thing, with more money, we would be able to expand and build and do more things. I mean, it's great what we're already doing, but I wish we could do more. Right, sorry to interrupt. I think you said you
No,
had
that-
another question.
Excuse me. I might have just forgotten what I was going to say. How long has this program been in operation?
I've done
all
them,
three of them.
my two programs, we're actually the only school in Massachusetts that's done Project Invention all 14 years.
Wow.
And then I've done robotics for the 14 years I've been here, but it was done for 3 years prior to that when it was funded by AT&T and BCC.
All right, Mr. Giles?
And I started the Lego Mindstorms after-school program last school year, but we didn't do the competition till this year.
Well, all I can say, it's fantastic, and thank you so much for your work, your time.
Yeah, just echo that, and like how you had said, it helps us use our brain and think better. And the skills that you are, building above and beyond the robotics, and it's just amazing. The teamwork, the collaboration, the thinking outside of the box and off the top of your head when something goes wrong. Well, that's the opportunity to learn more. So it's wonderful. Good job. Great job.
And if you don't mind me adding, I've had students I had one who was in both my programs, and he ended up going to Carnegie Mellon in robotics engineering and computer science double major. And he went for graduate work to Penn State, and now he's back at Carnegie Mellon working on his doctorate. Another one is an aeronautical engineer, went to Purdue because I went to Purdue. It's just, the ability, giving the students the ability to go the next step, which in the classroom we're restricted sometimes because of time. But this, they give their time, they give effort, and they're able to, I didn't know anything about lasers until one of my groups started learning about lasers, and I'm sitting there, okay, I've got to step up and I've got to learn it. So we learn together. It's really awesome. It really is.
I'm just, either one of these, my mechanical ability is zilch. As I say to people, I know which end of the hammer to hold and which end of the nail I have to hit, but I can't do it together, type of deal. It's just, who I am. But let me ask, on a serious note, I mean, when there's a problem during a competition, how much time do you have to try and fix it, and what are some of the things you have to do to try and get it going?
That's a great question for us. Well, I think we competed, was it 5 times we had to go back to the table? Yeah. So in between each time, we had maybe half an hour to work on what we did, and then we could do the same thing over again. We could work on something else. But even with that half an hour between everyone, they're hurrying, it's frantic, and everybody's trying to get everything done to work right. So for us, that's how it worked for us, basically. And it's different for every competition, too. I mean, even when we do it at UMass Dartmouth next year, the rules are going to be just a little bit different, hopefully affording us more time in between.
And I have to say also, Jamie is a judge for our robotics also, and I have a couple of engineers that come. But the students have 2 minutes to actually rectify the problem, and then they have an opportunity to try. With Project Invention, it's one time. They have a 9-minute presentation. They have to do an oral presentation and do everything in the 9 minutes.
So I have to laugh with the DEF and the Legos, because there were some applications for some the robotics that came in, and some of the older members of the board kept saying, I don't understand, just Legos? We're like, no, there's so much more than just Legos. It's not like a little Star Wars ship they're building. So I'm going to tell them to watch the next school committee on DCTV to see what these things do, because they're very amazing. And I have to say to the students, I worked as a computer programmer before I went back to graduate school, and it's in failure when you learn the most, right? If everything works smoothly, you don't learn nearly as much as when things don't work, because that's when you've got to figure things out. And so I think this is great. My kids, my oldest did product invention until he started jazz band, but all my kids have done a variety of the after-school programs at the middle school, and they're great. I mean, they are really wonderful, and I'm so glad we could have you in and highlight those. Because you're doing so much with these kids with so little. And sometimes small investments can pay off, right? We can leverage those to, like you said, get grants to work with other organizations to expand opportunities for our kids. So thank you so much for coming in tonight.
I'd like to, if I might, follow up on that a little bit, because we have some things happening this summer, and Ms. Oliveira is in the audience. I'd like her to come up and talk about the SAIL program. Yeah, because we're really trying to enhance all of what we offer about in this area.
Yeah.
And we have so much going on, and we really need to drum up a little more business, I think.
So actually, I'm just going to turn the mic right over to Pam and Jamie, because they are actually both teaching in the sales program. But I'll just give an introduction. This summer, we are, for the first time, having a spin-off of our elementary iSTEM club, which was a huge success that the community enjoyed and really put out for, that they were looking for more opportunities for the children to be involved in STEM activities. So we put together a SAIL program, which actually stands for Summer Adventures in Learning. We're not sailing on boats, but we are learning, project-based learning with lots of different opportunities between arts, Legos, robotics, Mindstorm, and everything else. So they're both having sessions, so I thought they could just talk about what they're doing. Good. Put you on the spot, too. See?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do 4 one-week sessions called Alien Meet and Greet, where students will build a robot that has to approach an alien, and in doing that, they will learn how to program, how to build, how to troubleshoot, and hopefully have fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my program.
I used to do SimCity, but then I was so busy with with these two programs, I didn't have much time for SimCity. But SimCity is a phenomenal program. It's computer-based, so it has high interest. But students need to develop a city from land. They have to develop the roadways, the commerce, how are they going to lay out the city, and then for competition at Northeastern University, they need to make a scale model of one portion of their city. And every year, which I'm not sure what it is this year, but every year they have a topic. One year was how can you use green energy to power your city and things like that. So I am running that for the first 2 weeks. And we're also running Raspberry Pi. I've been doing Raspberry Pi in my classrooms, and Raspberry Pi is a phenomenal $35 computer, which is about this big, and it allows you to do almost everything that a regular computer can do. And it's very high interest, and the students learn to code. We have some other coding at the middle school, but this is real code where they're actually typing, and they do a variety of things depending on what they want. If somebody comes into their room, they can have that Raspberry Pi detect that somebody's been in and videotape it so they know who it was. So that's the Raspberry Pi program. So those are the 2 that I'm doing.
Thank you.
And we also have, they'll be building cardboard canoes and sailing them across the Ponegazet. We'll see how that goes. Theater.
In them, are they?
Yeah, no, they build real cardboard canoes. They get in them and they race them. It's actually a program that Sam Brodsky from the high school is going to be teaching for 1 week for older kids in high school. So we'll see. It should be fun. And theater, dance, and video production are just some. And the community can find out more information on our website and, or just by calling Bush Street.
Thank you.
Could you, if you don't mind, could you elaborate on like what weeks, when you said like your
Sure,
first 4
it
weeks?
starts, I've had my notes, it starts July 10th, and there are different programs running each week for 5 weeks. We also have I'll just give a whole plug for all of our summer programs. We have academic summer school going on for students entering K through 8th grade, and Camp Invention, which is actually the week prior. We brought that into the district for the first time, hoping to get about 35 students, and we're up over 101. So far, our offerings have been very well received.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll also say for the kids and their families who are here, we understand if you'd like to take this opportunity to leave. You don't have to stay for our entire meeting. Feel free to sneak out. We'll move on now to our resolutions. Mr. Kiley, can I turn that over to you?
Thank you. I'm sure this is going to be just as exciting as all that. We have a resolution for awarding a driver training program. So whereas the Dartmouth Public Schools has opted to renew its contract with Martin Auto School, Inc. pursuant to item 14 of the bid specifications dated April 20th, 2016 for the school year 2017-18. Whereas the following 2016-17 bid result will continue for the school year 17-18. Martin Auto School of 487 Belleville Avenue, New Bedford. The cost to be paid to the town by the bidder is $1,328 a class. Be it resolved that Martin Auto School of 487 Belleville Avenue, New Bedford, Mass. be awarded the Dartmouth High School Driver Training Program for the 17-18 school year based on the Dartmouth Public Schools specifications dated April 20th, 2016.
I will entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
I second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Amaral. Do we have any questions or discussions for Mr. Kiley? Can you remind us how does this compare to last year's, the exact same price they're
So
paying?
it's the exact same price.
Okay.
This is just an option to renew.
Yep, okay. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain.
Okay, so motion passes 3-0-1. Next, we have our fuel oil.
Thank you. So, Resolution 18-2 is a resolution awarding a contract for supplying number 2 fuel oil for heating the Dartmouth Public Schools. Whereas bids for supplying number 2 fuel oil to Dartmouth Public Schools during the 2017-18 school year were duly advertised for the period 9/1/17 through 8/31/18 and publicly opened at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, May 31st, 2017. And whereas the bids from all responding bidders were reviewed and the lowest responsive and responsible bidder was Santa Buckley Energy, Inc., therefore be it resolved that the contract for supplying number 2 fuel oil to the Dartmouth Public Schools be awarded to Santa Buckley Energy, Inc., 154 Admiral Street, Bridgeport, Connecticut, at a fixed constant delivery price, cost of the lowest tank car price per gallon for the Providence, Rhode Island area, as published in the Oil Price Information Service on the date of delivery, plus 0.0791 cents, delivery cost per gallon per Dartmouth Public Schools specifications dated May 15th, 2017.
I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
A second?
A second.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Amaral. Any discussion or questions for Mr. Kiley? Mr. Nunes?
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Kiley.
Yes.
Is it just the cost of, I mean, I'm looking, it's like the tank price, you know, is 24 cents. You know, the delivery charge came down 6 cents, but, you know, so it's just the cost of fuel at this point in time?
So the bid, the important part of the bid is the delivery price. We pay current market rate
Market price, right.
for the actual product.
Right.
So we're not actually bidding that portion. We're
Per
really
se.
just bidding. It's
The
just for
delivery cost.
reference, really.
The
But
would
we're
be-
bidding the delivery cost,
Okay.
which actually is down 6 cents.
Yeah.
You know, per gallon, which is, we were very pleased with. But
Okay, thank you.
So what does that come out to, sort of savings over?
Not much.
Right, yeah, I mean, we're not talking like we're.
Not much. And in fact, we're,
Now.
yeah, and we're in the process of converting the high school from oil to natural gas with the green energy
Right.
grant that we've gotten. So we're gonna use even less oil.
Right.
And we've already converted the primary boiler last summer at Potter and DeMello from oil to gas. So, yeah, we're saving 6 cents and it's not gonna make any impact, really.
Okay.
But it's nice to pay less.
Yes, it is. Any other questions? All right, so hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that passes unanimously. We'll move on to the milk.
Thank you. So, Resolution 18-3 is a resolution awarding a contract for supplying milk to the Dartmouth Public Schools. Whereas bid proposals for supplying milk to the various school cafeterias for the 17-18 school year were opened at 9 a.m. Wednesday, May 24th, 2017. Whereas bids were based on the cost as governed by the Regional Cooperative Market Agency and/or Federal Market Administrator Class 1 Zone 1 price, a monthly upward or downward adjustment provision to the price, and whereas the 2 responding bid proposals were analyzed. Therefore, be it resolved that the contract for supplying milk for the school year 17-18 be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Gorelick Farms, 626 Linway, Mass., per the Dartmouth Public Schools specifications dated May 2nd, 2017.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second? All right, so I've got a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. Any questions? Have any questions about coffee milk this year? The Midwesterner has learned her lesson about coffee milk, so. If I am, no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, so the motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to milk and bread. Now we're on to bread.
Thank you. Resolution 18-4 is a resolution awarding a contract for supplying bakery products. Whereas bid proposals for supplying bakery products to the various school cafeterias for the 17-18 school year were opened at 9:30 Wednesday, May 24th, 2017. And whereas the one responding bid proposal was analyzed for cost and content, therefore be it resolved that the contract for supplying bakery products for the school year 17-18 be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Homestead Bakery, 145 North Broadway, East Providence, Rhode Island, per the Dartmouth Public Schools specifications dated May 2nd, 2017.
I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second? All right, so we got a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Amaral. Any questions?
No.
Go ahead.
Mr. Kiley?
Yes.
Off the top of your head, how many, did just one person take bids out, or did?
On this one, no, we did have another bidder take a bid out. We actually have had, we awarded a contract 2 years ago to a separate company that actually failed within about 2 months of us. So these folks have been with us since. And it's pretty close in price. It's about $60, I believe about $60 a month more this year than last year, but it is something that we feel confident in.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that motion carries unanimously. And finally, the only one that my children really care about, the pizza contract.
This one is a little bit exciting, at least. It's pizza. Resolution 18-5, awarding a contract for supplying pizza. Whereas bid proposals for supplying baked wheat pizza to the various school cafeterias for 17-18 school year were opened at 10 a.m. Wednesday, May 24th, 2017. And whereas the 2 responding bid proposals were analyzed for cost and content, therefore be it resolved that the contract for supplying pizza for the 17-18 school year be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Domino's Pizza, per the Dartmouth Public Schools specifications dated May 2nd, 2017.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. Any questions? It's good to see we're right on the level funding this
Level
one,
funding.
this year. All right, so any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. All right, next on the agenda, we have the consent agenda, which is the request for the Dartmouth High School Marching Band and Color Guard to operate the food concession at the Dartmouth Living Memorial Stadium for the 2017 football season.
So moved.
There's a second. So we have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. Are there any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then we've got the request to conduct the summer arts workshop at Dartmouth High School.
So moved.
A second.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Ms. Amaral. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. All right, so now we're on to new business. We have the fiscal year 17 end-of-year authorization. Mr. Kiley?
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Another exciting one. We have the close of the fiscal year upon us. So we're in the process of getting all the finances in order and closing out. So there is a school committee policy, DBJ, and I am seeking your authorization to allow me to transfer any monies from one account to another. We do this each year, and what I would expect at the close of this fiscal year is that, with the exception of some monies that were set aside for collective bargaining purposes, will be completely spent. So we've had a good year, and we're in the process of closing that out. And we're still in collective bargaining, so we're reserving funds for those purposes. But other than that, all the rest of the funds will be spent.
So we need a motion on that yet to authorize you to do that.
Oh, so moved.
All right, do I have a second?
A second.
All right, so we have a motion by Dr. Karafotis, second by Ms. Amaral. Any questions for Mr. Kiley or discussion? Mr. Nunes?
Just, can we get the usual year-end report that, what you've transferred around?
Absolutely.
So we can.
Yep, of course.
All right, we can see, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, are there any, do you see any areas that have big sort of shortfalls that we underfunded or anything unusual that came up over the year?
We had a good year in terms of utilities. It was a very mild winter. So we benefited both from the very mild winter and the fact that we had converted some of our heat over from oil to gas and much more efficient heating. So we benefited from that as well. We actually had a fairly good year in terms of substitute costs, so we did pretty well on those. We had the biggest area that we actually spent more than we had originally projected was in special ed tuitions. So we had some move-ins that we hadn't anticipated, and so we definitely had, those are kind of compensating for the savings in the other areas, but this motion allows me to move money from one
to
place
fix
to
that,
another to take care of that, so.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so any other questions on the motion on the table? All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Now I'm going to turn over to Ms. Roy for our school committee policies first readings.
So the policy subcommittee met recently to make some minor adjustments. The first one was at the request of the committee. You remember reviewing the school calendar. There is one specific section. If you see the line that starts in regard to school opening in the fall, the school year will begin the week prior to Labor Day. The prior policy had 3 specific lines that said on Tuesday we will do this, on Wednesday we will do this, and on Thursday and Friday this will happen. So the committee asked that we remove the specific piece to that section, which the subcommittee did. The next 4 policies were caught in our coordinated program review. Policy IJ, IJJ, JB, and JBA all had embedded non-discrimination statements, and we had updated our non-discrimination statement that was required of us to add the homelessness category. So we just needed to clean up these 4 that referenced that non-discrimination statement. So that's the only part that was added. So instead of it ending with disabilities, it would say comma or homelessness on all four of those. So this is a first read.
Can I ask a question about one of those on JB, right? Equal educational opportunities. I can see the indented paragraph, right? Homelessness was added there. Does it need to be added in the first paragraph as well? Where it's got race, color, gender identity, it should be added up top there as well, yes?
It should be.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so does anybody have any of the other comments, questions on any of those? So I can't remember if you can just remind me, I know you know the history of this, that the old policy on the calendar had like, sometimes it was before Labor Day and sometimes it was after. We decided to that we were always gonna do before Labor Day. Yeah, okay, I just wanna I couldn't remember if we had that discussion.
If my memory's any good, it used to be if Labor Day
Was
was the
late,
5th
right,
or
right.
later, we started
Before.
before. If it was, you know.
Okay, but that had
October
already been
5th,
taken
we were
out.
done, So we took
Okay.
that out
Right.
before.
Okay, all right,
Kind of did that a number of years ago. We just went back and said we're going to start before
Right.
Labor Day, after getting burnt.
yes. All right, so any other questions on any of the policies?
You wanna
Nope,
take
all right,
you wanna
and
take
so
them
that's a first reading, so we don't need to do anything on those.
My fault.
So just that one minor change to that one to add homelessness, and then we'll take them up at the next meeting. So the next item on our agenda is our summer meeting schedule. We already have one scheduled for this month, right?
26th.
26th, I'm pulling up my calendar, which is spotty sometimes, yeah, okay. So we need to set July and August. I think we usually do we do two in each month, or we usually do one
No,
over the
one.
summer?
One.
Yeah, all right, so I am not gonna be here in later July, but I think we wanna push the meeting till later July since we're meeting so late in June, right? So why don't maybe the rest of you discuss your July, what works for you in July, and then, but I just won't be here.
The 30th, I mean, aside from the 10th, which is at the beginning of the month, any of those Mondays work for me.
Okay, so that
Okay.
puts the 17th, the 24th, and the 31st in play.
Yeah, I mean, the 31st, for me, the 31st is fine.
What about everyone else?
I'm available as well. for those.
I actually will be here on the 31st. Are you around on the 31st?
Here on the 31st.
And how about for you all? Does the 31st work for July?
That was good for us.
That was good for them.
Okay, so we'll do July 31st, and then,
Suggest August 28th.
28th?
Not the whole month.
Okay. Does that work for everyone? August 28th?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then, of course, if something comes up where we need a meeting in between any of those, we can always add one.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 31st and the 28th for our summer meetings, and then on the 28th, we can set the
We
full fall.
We're already suggesting the 11th if you,
September 11th, yeah.
just to get us going into the new year. and
Okay,
then
so let's do that, all right,
Okay.
September 11th.
Give us time, school will have been started.
Right. Okay, that sounds good, when we'll get back to more regular.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, so now I will hand it over to Dr. Gifford
All
for
right.
the superintendent's evaluation
Yep.
presentation.
Okay, so I passed out to you. I didn't pass you out. A few documents, they're in the drive, but I just thought it'd be easier for discussion tonight as I just go over a few highlights, additional things that have happened since the mid-cycle review. So you do have the mid-cycle review that was presented, that's in the PowerPoint form, of kind of some of the things that had been going on up to that point. So tonight, I just wanted to, I gave you this one. It actually has the wrong date on it, I don't know why, but that's okay. And I've highlighted a few things that I'm gonna talk about now. And then I've also given you, yours would be a one-page, double-sided, with professional practice goal and student learning goal on the other side, again with I'm calling it summative additions, just additional information since the mid-cycle review. And all of this, as I said, is in the drive. hopefully somewhat organized. Every time I try to think of it differently and think, how can it be organized so folks can understand what's happening. So I'll just go over the professional practice and the student learning goal, just highlight, like I said, one or two things. So if you recall, the professional practice goal was to collaborate with the leadership team regarding the what effective classroom instruction looks like so that we can do a better job with the feedback that we provide to teachers to help improve instruction and what's happening in the classrooms. So we continued our work together throughout our, nothing new there, what I had talked about in the mid-cycle, the work that we did usually with our DLT. Some of the other things that we've done is I've been able to work with a few administrators in particular personally on a couple of different feedback issues that they wanted to provide to try to really pinpoint and help them hone in on what practices were happening in the classroom. So there's been some of that one-to-one collaboration as well. But I think what I'm highlighting tonight on that piece is that what we've done, we've just disseminated a survey to the staff. I think it was a 5-question survey, very brief. We decided to just ask for some feedback from the entire staff to help them let us know how we've done, if anything we're saying during feedback time or observation meetings, et cetera, is doing any good for them. If it's helping them, supporting them, because that's our intention. So we've put that out, so I thought that was the biggest piece this year, being reflective practitioners, looking for feedback for ourselves to improve our practice. So that's been sent out, and we'll be looking to put that together and discuss at one of our retreat dates that we come up. And the student learning goal, what I'd like to mention tonight, if you recall, that's really about working with central office folks and as well as our math team to help us improve what we do with our math students, our math practices, as well as really squeezing in, if you will, the middle school curriculum so that we can say that we're really offering kids an opportunity to participate in all of the standards that would be aligned with an algebra class. My algebra guru, my math guru over here has been really helping lead that charge. I think one of the highlights since mid-cycle this year to mention, right now to mention, obviously we've done lots of meetings, lots of work with discussing pathways, but I think one of the biggest thing that's really happened now is the vertical teaming that's happening between the high school and the middle school. Ann Brown, our math person, specialist at the middle school, especially has been meeting not only with her team, but with the math folks at the high school. So and as you recall, we've been doing some professional development with the math team at the high school as well. So we're very hopeful that the way that the middle school is going to be able to compress it can happen overnight because you would have gaps in learning if we shifted what we were teaching, but to be able to compress the curriculum so that kids are learning what they need to a little bit more in 6th and a little bit more in 7th, and then finally getting to 8th grade where they're having quadratic functions that I hear Michelle talk about all the time. In the end, getting the kids to that pathway where they can excel at the high school if they need to and want to. So I think that's the big thing that's happening there this year. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the PowerPoint, the multi-page one that starts off with the standard 1, instructional leadership. I decided to shift from articulating things that have been going on in the district improvement goal, because if you recall, the district improvement goal was really about implementing the strategic plan. So I thought I would, in your mid-cycle, you have it laid out by each objective in the strategic plan. If you will go back, you'll see that in the drive. I kind of shifted now this time for the summative to just go through the 4 standards in the rubric, because I felt that by implementing the strategic plan, we're addressing the various indicators and elements in the 4 standards. That's what we do. So I'm just going to, again, highlight a couple of things. So an instructional leadership, One of the big things that we've been doing, of course, is continuing to expand our curriculum mapping initiative that started before. Mrs. Oliveira's done a fantastic job with the various teams, the curriculum instruction assessment teams, every other team that she's got going, literacy teams. But really bringing teachers together to develop units of study, some working with DESE on the model curriculum units. Those teachers are bringing those back to the classrooms and their counterparts. One thing we're working on now, of course, with trying to get some science standards in, some science units happening, and again, she's doing a great job with that. Another thing under instructional leadership is the development of, we had the program descriptions for our PASS and PALS programs articulated early in the year, and just working with Beth, special ed director, and being able to have her work with teachers to place our students appropriately. We felt that was a very important piece of our work, to create those program descriptions. I already mentioned the continued work with the CIA team. I'm just skipping down that first page. And the continued focus on the model curriculums and now the science standards, as well as our digital literacy standards, which our library, media, and technology staff have been starting some meetings there. You've seen some of our STEM work in action this year. You've seen the great response we've had to the iSTEM clubs, and as well as what you saw tonight. So I just mentioned that as ongoing work. Another thing that we're doing here, and I think I mentioned it twice, if I skip over from the bottom there and then to the next page, but we're recently working with a group of teachers to talk about a child protection unit, which is part of our health curriculum. So we'll be wanting to roll that out next year. But we're working very carefully on how to, make sure parents are aware of all of that, so there'll be more information coming. So that work has been ongoing. Let's see. The elementary pilot, Lucy Calkins, reading units of study, that has really taken off, where we're getting to a really good place where all of our teachers are almost there. So that's been a rollout again. Mrs. Oliveira, I'll mention her name numerous times tonight. And then, of course, the continued efforts at the bottom of instructional leadership to continue to increase and enhance our professional development opportunities for our staff. As we've mentioned time and time again, we cannot thank our staff enough because we have so many people that step up and provide the PD that we have. But we did add, because of the Rethinking Equity and Teaching for our English language learners, we've added that strand as well this past year. So those are the highlights in instructional leadership. Management and operations, I wanted to mention, as you know, obviously, we had our comprehensive emergency management plan completed last year. This year, we continued work with that. We met more times with our police and fire also. We did have an information night. Unfortunately, 2 people showed up. So I take that as folks are happy with what we're doing. Until something happens, right? And then they wonder why. We did send staff members from every building to advanced ALICE training, so they'll be able to, and they are continuing to help us roll that out. Our plans are to have some, I would guess, a review and highlight for especially our secondary staff, our middle and high school staff, so that we can do an actual, we've talked with the police, we'll be scheduling in the fall actual practices with our students where they have to exit the building, et cetera. Let's see. I think some of the things that are happening with our human resources, creating efficiencies in central office. We're starting to investigate and have the online registration for our, we couldn't use it for our kindergarten this year because we weren't quite ready, but to be able to really enhance and be more efficient in what we're doing. So we're looking into some of those programs. Ms. Roy has been working to bring that on board with Mr. Galashaw. As you know, on the next page, management operations, we had our coordinated program review audit this year. Very, very successful planning and implementation. The entire team planned and implemented that. And let all our leadership team know what was happening. I thought it was a very thorough review and preparation process. And as you heard me say on a previous meeting, our draft report, if you will, was very positive and we'll be receiving the real draft, I guess, the written draft in August at some point. Technology, I'm going to ask Mr. Galasho at the end of the month is going to give us a report, overview on what's happened with technology this year. But what I can say is, again, the equipment that they've been able to purchase, what's happening with our instructional tech folks, all of that. One, I guess, real positive is the way that MCAS, the online assessment, went off this year. And as you remember, the only school last year was Quinn Elementary that did the computer-based testing. So thanks to the technology folks, the prep was excellent, and that it helped make sure that went off without many glitches, I would say. Down a little bit further, we've done SBIRT, planning, training, and implementation, and that's through our nursing department. So we've actually hosted, that's going to be a screening that we're required to give for kids, just, you know, for drug addictions and those kinds of things, and it's a very, very non-intrusive screening test that our staff is being trained in. But our nursing, especially Kelly Stoll, our lead nurse, has done a fine job helping plan and implement that. We hosted a session here. We've gone to a training on that, some of our admin. So that was some work we've done. I think one of the big things I love this is we brought in the canine assistance therapy, and you've all heard about that. You've seen that. So I'm very pleased about that. And as you see, it's under management and operations. It could be all of these things could be under any standard, but this really talks about this, promotes the success of students and staff, about safe, efficient, and effective learning. So I thought it could go there. And then into family and community. I'm not going to say too much. One thing I think you just heard about the SAIL program, those enhanced summer programs that we're running to reach our community, try to fill the needs of our parents and students. So you've just heard about that. But I also think our entire staff has done a great, great job with our Facebook account, which I think that just, you know, really says it all. I think about every time we post something on it, that it just gives people a sense of what's happening in the schools. Like today was the step-up day, just to see the pictures and have that sense. And finally, in the last standard, professional culture. Obviously, everything we do, we talk about our core beliefs, our efforts to improve our instructional practices, efforts to enhance our capacity to make sure all students are learning at their to their potential. I think some of the other things that show the work we do around professional culture is some of the keynote speakers that we've brought in over the last couple of years. This year, Emilio Neves and, of course, Jessica Minahan comes in, but just to bring those folks in for our staff to hear and learn from, in addition to them themselves. And I would just say the strategic plan implementation, we continue to use that as our focus. I already talked about our enhanced human resource practices, the hiring workflow that Ms. Roy's done a nice job with the staff in central office to really try to create more efficiencies with that and try to cut out some of the paperwork and that, and not do the same step 3 times, 4 times, and that kind of thing. We've done some ASOP training this year for our secretaries. They've been very happy about that. It's like you get these programs in and you kind of have you don't know what the monster can do. Mm-hmm. And then also some of the team opportunities that we've created. We've continually send, and we did it again this year, a large cadre to MassQ. We continue to enhance and increase the folks that go. We actually next week we're attending, it stems off from my NISIP program, a personalized learning program with our leadership, some of our leadership from the high school, including our new principal who will be coming on board. Really looking at how can we help support some more personalized learning, and we think about these project-based things with our high school, et cetera. And then a new one that we're getting into right now, it's called Highlander, a group that Mr. Galashaw brought in. We've met with a couple of times, and it's really going to be folks that are going to help. It's kind of a dual plan, if you will, but really focus on some professional development with our elementary level, middle school level, but help us with our high school, developing a pathway in, as you know, the call for more computer science, STEM, engineering, et cetera, to develop and articulate a real defined pathway throughout the high school for some of these kids. We've done some school visits on this, so we're really looking forward. I spoke to Dr. Peter Bangs the other day. We talked to him of kind of getting his feel of what it might look like. And our teachers will be involved in that next year as planning and design of this. But we're very excited to just kind of start that work. So those are some of the highlights we have, and there's more in, as I said, in the drive for you to look at. And I always say, call me with questions, come in, chat, whatever you need to do.
Okay,
That's it.
does anybody have any questions?
It's a mouthful.
Comments?
Well, I'll just say that I'm very pleased with all the initiatives that have been started under your leadership and Mrs. Roy's. I have a question on the math at the middle school. That one often comes up. I know you're looking to get what's the timeline on that? The algebra at the middle school?
So what they've got at the middle school right now is the entire component of linear algebra. They're missing that last quarter of the quadratic. So middle school is going to pick up a portion of that, and the additional few are going to be embedded in the honors geometry at the high school. So the rollout is next year.
Next year.
Wow. Okay.
So students that will be leaving at the next year will go into a honors geometry cohort, which will embed the remaining few components of quadratics.
Not one of my strengths.
Yeah. One of the things we want to note, we're not particularly set on calling anything an algebra class, because we want to make sure all students have that opportunity. It's not just some students are chosen to go into an algebra class.
I agree with you.
But we believe you teach those standards and you give all kids the opportunity to learn it, and whatever level they can learn to. And also, but the meat and the content will be in the class.
Great.
The algebra standards are there. It's just not called algebra.
Those students that are successful that first time out of the gate will go into that honors geometry. Those that need more of that will go into or either our honors algebra 1 or our regular algebra 1, depending on. So they'll have a timeline, and there'll be an opportunity for them to hop the pathway again.
Good. Well, I'm glad it's being offered to all
Finally.
students. That's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And just one other question about the international students. When is that program going to be implemented?
I wish I could tell you. I'm actually, I've got Mr. Galasho helping me now, because it seems as though they've changed leadership and they've changed representatives. And Mr. Parati and his group created a nice profile video for us. We've got that ready, we've sent it in, and I have a very hard time getting in touch with the rep that I now have, and I've emailed nonstop, and so the next step, Mr. Galasho is trying to help me get in touch with him. He'd called you today. It's been a number of weeks.
Is that the gentleman that said, here's my phone number, call me anytime?
No.
Day or night?
He left, that's the problem.
left.
Because I had experience with him in a prior district, and you could call him at any, and everything was done quickly. It just seems this go around, we've done everything on our end and are waiting for their help. So I do believe at least our profile, that's been sent in to the company. Our video will now then go up online for the company. We just didn't make the brochure. So it's a long process, but I'm still hopeful.
One step at a time.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
still
Well,
hopeful.
thank you. Excellent.
Other questions, comments?
No, just,
Well done.
Okay. You need
I'm
anything come in?
really happy to see the math work. I know I've heard a lot from parents about that transition and concerns. So that's great. I also, I love the Facebook page. I saw my own son on the Facebook
Oh, did
page
you?
today, and it was great, and I imagine that every parent that sees their child or children that they know has that same feeling, and so I think it's a really great way for the schools to reach out and to engage. And then the other thing that I'll say is I'm really quite pleased with the expansion of STEM learning in the district. We've always had great arts program, a great music program. I think that's an area where we've been weaker, and it's not because of our staff, it's just because we haven't put a focus on it.
That's right.
And that focus, that development, I remember, I think it was several years ago, we extended Ms. Oliveira's contract to be full year, which I think was a was a really great investment on our part, and we're seeing the fruits of that investment. And I'm just,
You're
I
right.
just wish my kids were younger, so they could, right? I feel like, or they could do some of these things, but I'm glad to see that
Right.
really coming to the forefront throughout, not just in the high school, which has always done it, but down into the middle and elementary schools to
too.
get kids excited, right? Like
That's right.
Jack Kircher, who is coming in on his own time when there was not, to try to make that work. And that's really exciting, so I'm really pleased with that.
Yep.
So the next
right.
step is that we're all gonna fill out our individual evaluation sheets.
Yeah.
And then you can email those to me. And then John, Mr. Nunes and I will meet, we will schedule a meeting where we will then take your report and put together a full report that we will then present at our next meeting.
That's right.
Now, remind me of your schedule. You're out for a
I'm out-
while,
oh,
right?
No, I'm just out the week of the 9th. I'm just gone a couple of days that week.
Okay, so the next meeting is until the 26th, so
Right.
we can meet the week of like the, let's see.
Yeah, I've got Monday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm down at Cape at a seminar, but I
Okay,
have
but
to-
we can meet the week of the 19th sometime, right?
Yeah, the 22nd or 23rd.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
if you guys could get us your information by, let's say, email it to me by the 18th on the latest.
Father's Day,
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
You can get it in earlier if you want to
Yep.
spend your Father's Day a different way. And then Mr. Nunes and I will meet that week, compile everything, and then we'll be ready to present.
Now, will we be getting the form to use?
They are up in the drive, but we can certainly email you another, I think we can do that, so you'd have it right there, and you wouldn't have to go hunting for it.
Right,
I know how
I
difficult that is.
Some of the stuff was like
Yeah, I know.
sideways.
I know, I need a lesson on turning it. We'll email you or
That would
send
be
you off
great. I
a copy.
appreciate that.
It'll
Thank
be
you very
easier
much.
for you.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
Ms. Aaron, if you do want to talk, I'd be happy to meet with you
Sure,
too.
yeah. And I did meet with Dr.
Okay, you did, so
Gifford.
you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All
But I
right.
will take you up on that.
All right,
sure.
excellent. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it can be a little,
It-
it's
it-
still confusing to me. I'm not going to pretend that I quite understand
I
it,
know.
but we all do our best.
That's it.
All right, so that's great. Any other questions or comments? All right, so I'm going to continue, Dr. Gifford.
Well, I'll cut out a lot of what I had, because I think I just mentioned much of it, but you obviously know it's a very busy time of year. There's PBIS rallies, literacy nights, concerts, read to your student, I mean, all kinds of things have been happening, and we all try to get to as much as we can. Obviously, there was the National Honor Society. I know Mr. Nunes was there, and it was very well attended and a wonderful, wonderful event at the high school. You just heard them talk about the competitions they've all been in at the middle school. I have to mention the Special Olympics event. I believe, I was told we had more schools participate this year, and if you never have been, you just have to go. It's the most moving, emotional, wonderful, wonderful time. It was just fantastic to see the smiles and the cheering and everything else. The middle school just had a Rare Olympics Day recently. We attended the Mass Association of School Superintendents President's Annual Spring Meeting. I don't know if it was last week, I think it was. And again, Governor Baker was there, and he spoke about the urgency around developing that computer science pathway. So this is kind of what I just alluded to with that Highlander group that we're going to be working on. So we're very excited about that. And our sports teams did really well this past spring. All but one, I believe, made state tournament play. So kudos to all of them. And I think that's it, other than a great graduation. All right.
So I don't really have anything. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add? Mr. Nunes?
Thank you. I just want to congratulate Jen Cabral on her first year of running the after prom. I mean, we went to the senior prom Thursday night at Gillette Stadium, was fantastic. The kids were wonderful. They had a great time. Come back to the after prom, you've got, there were 250 students or so that were there. It was a great time. They had a lot of fun, a lot of activities, a lot of food. The door prizes at the end. Frank Santos is the hypnotist, as usual, is the big hit. Different things and events, and my hat's off to Jen for first time taking such an enormous project on and doing a fantastic job with it. And then just again, congratulations to all the seniors with senior awards night. Everyone there, that was a fun evening also, with the scholarships and then the academic awards, so that was fun.
Anything else? So I will see, I suspect many of you tomorrow. It's a town meeting, but our next meeting of the school committee is the 26th. So we'll see you all then. And at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session. I gotta put my glasses on now. To discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with union personnel, not to return to open session.
So moved.
Second. So I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. Ms. Boucher, can we do a roll call, please?
Dr. Karafotis, Mrs. Amaral, Mr. Nunes.
Yes.
Dr. Jenkins.
Yes, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.